Hey everybody, I'm back. Now, I know it's a Sunday, but I have to do this because, okay, apparently a good buddy of mine, not a buddy of all, but a man I've been following named My Name is Bife, has been making a secret project devoting itself to the hive's lore itself. The project is called Dynasty, and I just gotta say, totes love it. I mean, I can't wait to know what the hive used to look like before they were all icky and spooky. If you don't know what a hive is, imagine like an insect. Imagine like a man was created, and if it was an insect. Now also imagine it having three eyes, like a triclops. That's what a hive is. It's basically like this undead thing. It's a You should look up on the Destiny lore. You know, I might put a lore link in the description too. You know, just so you guys can read the description. Just be assured to know what the hive are, okay? It'll help tell you what they are. So, either way, let's just do this thing. No, wait, come to think of it, I could actually put another link here. Just screw it, let's do it! Okay. Dynasty is a fan-made is not associated to Bungie. Like I don't associate my stuff to Bungie.
Greetings, Guardians. My name is Bife here.
Whoa.
A few months ago, my team was delighted.
Wait, hold the phone. That's what the hive's eyes look like? No, wait, do I have this thing on? You know what? Maybe I should put this on a better quality. That's better. So, okay. Okay, let me rewind it. I know I'm gonna put the link up, but this is a hive. Well, before they used to have been called that, they were once called the Krill. Basically, like, the name is weird, okay? I don't know why. It just sounds odd, but it sounds alien-like. I mean, hive does sound cool. But I think from the looks of it as a hive knight sort of way. But let's just continue what we were doing. Good animation, though.
Greetings, Guardians. My name is Bife here. A few months ago, my team was delighted to reveal the first look at our next big Destiny lore project,
Whoa!
Dynasty, the complete retelling of the story of the Hive.
Okay. I know what you all are saying. I might pause some of these so I can explain what's going on, okay? This thing is a hive worm god. It's basically like what they worship. Okay? And basically these guys like worship gods, but they're not exactly. You see, they believe in that the strongest are allowed to exist. Like, example, like humanity. Like, okay, I'm just gonna put a stupid thing like, if you compare a human strength to a hive strength, a hive would just break down a human in seconds. And that's the most screwed up thing ever. There's so many screwed up things the hive have done, which I can't just explain it. You guys have to find out that yourselves. Okay?
And the Witch Queen, Savathun.
This
the project is bigger than anything we've done on the channel before, and we're hoping to launch just before the release of the Witch Queen expansion next year. The production scale and budget for this is bigger than anything we've ever done before. We have an incredibly special team of very talented individuals helping to create this project, and not only do I think it'll be the best content that we've ever released on the channel, but it'll bring us to a very special place. Not only in terms of the story of Destiny, but also in terms of my own personal journey as a content creator covering the lore of this universe.
Cool! Art by JDator. Okay.
The Books of Sorrow was the first big Destiny.
Yeah. And these three are some important figures you'll find out soon.
Lore project
I don't want to
that I
spoil
ever
it
made.
much.
We've made a lot of leaps and bounds on the channel since then, and for years now we've been incrementally building with each big project to make the next best thing.
And this guy is Byfear, which, if you're listening to this, if you watch this, just know that I'm not saying this, but I was expecting you to have a beard. I mean, a guy who sounds like that sounds like a guy with a beard. But that's just my thought. But you look great. I mean, that shirt really looks good on you, by the way. And you're not the only one with glasses in it, the lore nerd.
We've been looking for a time when we're ready to take the next giant leap. And with Dynasty, I think it's fair to say that here and now, we're ready.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know who this is yet, but in case you ask what the heck this place is, I know I hate doing some spoilers, but you can't spoil a lore. I mean, it's not a part of a game. I mean, you can't spoil like the within story of the game, like the campaign. You can't explain that because it's a spoiler. But this I can explain. Okay, so this world is called an Ascendant Realm, and it's basically like your own personal pocket dimension. Like the hive have, like each hive god have like a personal Ascendant Realm, and they can make it big depending on how powerful beings they killed. Like an example point, Oryx, and others, which I don't like to talk about. So, and this place is oddly familiar to me. I do love the design though; it looks great, especially with that ball in the middle, like that powerful orb of dark matter. So otherworldly. And yeah, these are the eyes. Okay? Before they were krill, they had normal eyes, but now they're hive, they have like glowing green eyes. Dev Diary.
Dynasty is going to be the first really big lore project in which we're telling the stories of Destiny's lore, in part with 3D full motion animation. And whilst most of the story is still going to be told through our artwork, there are certain key moments in the project and the story, and certain scenes at which it's really important that we do actually animate those just to tell the real gravity of the story and to portray that particular moment as best we can. These moments really are all about taking the story that's been told through the grimoire and through the lore and bringing it to life in a medium that's as close to what players might see in-game as possible. So the idea is to make it indistinguishable from a cutscene that you actually see in Destiny, and to try and then represent that lore as accurately as possible. To do this, we needed a team of artists and animators that not only understood the core themes of Destiny...
Okay. I know I might say this again, but... Okay. Now, you're probably wondering, how the hell... Like, what the hell is this thing? It's basically a worm. And... Okay. If this is gross, leave the channel. If it sounds disgusting, leave the video and puke, okay? Go ahead and puke and then come back, okay? After when I'm done explaining, okay? Just note that this is a warning. This thing is a worm, and basically what the hive do with them, they eat them alive. And if you're asking for sustenance, I mean, that makes sense, but no, they don't. They don't eat them for sustenance. They do it ritualistically, like a ritual. And basically, the many victories of the hive have, the hungrier this thing gets. And if you're asking what they feed on is war. They feed off of defeated enemies. And with each defeat, their hungers expand more. It's crazy, too. I mean, it's bonkers. At least the Elixni, I'm just saying this, at least the Elixni have something I like to call honor. And this, for the hive, it's just disturbing as hell. Jesus Christ.
Destiny, but also the design language of the hive and the technical skills needed to bring.
And in case you ask who this fella is, his name is Oryx. He once was known, well, technically, but I don't want to spoil that lore. You guys go read it yourselves. And he is called the Taking King. He is the king of the Osmium Court. And he is like the eldest and the wisest of them, I think. And can I just say that it's cool to see an insectoid having no insectoid wings? I mean, I'm just saying it looks cool. I just never thought to actually see that.
These different...
Plus the head looks crazy looking. I mean, I've never seen anything like this. Looks cool. So
characters, some of which have never been seen in the lore, to life.
Wait! Xivu Arath? Okay. I may have said this, but... Okay, Oryx has like 2 siblings. 2 girls. And this is Xivu Arath, apparently? I wasn't expecting her to look like this. I mean, she's freaking awesome. I mean, there were some, like, arts who made this stuff, but can I show you a concept art of her? Of Xivu Arath? I mean, some people like to describe her to look like this. I mean, looks disturbing too, but at least this looks awesome. I'm sorry that I had to exit out of the film screen, the full screen, okay? So, I just can't believe this is Xivu Arath. Look at her.
Our key artist in this team is Metaworks, whose art style was incredibly fitting for the project because it was something that could very closely emulate what we actually see in-game. And as a result, even these moments with art that aren't full motion animation are going to look spectacular and very close to what you'd actually find if you were playing Destiny 2. Our core animation team includes Drexis Animations, who I've worked with before on the Complete Story of the Darkness video, and Cinemamotionss, but there are a ton more supporting individuals behind the scenes that are responsible for all aspects of the project. They've done some incredible work by not only helping to animate and rig the different characters in the story, but also by helping to actually create those characters from scratch in some cases.
This one tells it all. Is that though?
One of the really big challenges of this project was in fact the characters that I just mentioned. We've seen Oryx in game, we've killed Oryx in the King's Fall raid, and so we kind of have an idea of what Oryx would have looked like in this story. But ultimately, Savathun's appearance and Xivu Arath's appearance for that matter are big question marks, and they don't have any models in game. So with that in mind, we needed to create models for the other 2 thus far unseen hive gods. Now, I have no doubt that at some point in the future, Bungie is going to reveal the appearance for Savathun and maybe for Xivu Arath, but in the meantime, we had to come up with our own interpretations for how these hive gods might look. Whilst I have no doubt that Bungie's design is going to be spectacular, and whilst I have almost no doubt that their designs are probably going to be better, this hopefully is something memorable, and hopefully we've done justice to these really fantastic characters.
Okay, Oh, dang it! Ad! We'll be back shortly, folks. Okay, apparently the ad just decided to, get rid of itself. Apparently. So let's continue what we were at. Whoa. Okay, I know I said this before, but that is a really good look. I mean, whoever made this, the Blender people, the guys who created the animation, the artwork designers, she doesn't look like a war queen. She looks just like a freaking nightmare monster. She looks so freaking metal looking. Her teeth. Look at this teeth. Look at the teeth on this bitch. Look at her. Look at the teeth. Holy shit, though. But the armor but also, I know I'm gonna say this, but I highly doubt if they ever do another. Like, if they... I swear, if they ever do another project too, they better freaking make it for every single one. For every single lore. Like the Fallen, the Cabal, and the Vex. Well, the Vex have a connection to this, so, to the Hive, but that's a story for another day. Or for you. Oh my god, look at her! She looks freaking cool looking! Dude! She looks heavy metal! She looks so freaking
For both designs, there was a lot of inspiration that came from the lore and what we knew about each of the gods. And we even went as far as to sit down and discuss how the dynamics of each god might be expressed through their appearance. Xivu Arath, for example, had to have a pretty fantastic sword, and so her design came with its own unique sword.
Okay. That is the most coolest looking sword ever. That sword looks badass and freaking kick-ass looking. Plus the chains look great. You could have just wrapped them around here on the front instead of the back, but that's just me.
We also looked at the materials that the Hive used, and we settled on the note of hadium, which is this metal that you find on board the Dreadnought, and it's got unique properties that allow it to absorb the light or dark energy of whatever's in close proximity to it. In the Taken King expansion, we make this into swords that we use, such as Raise Lighter and Boltcaster. But we then sat there and said, why wouldn't Xivu actually have all of her armor made of this stuff? And if she did, wouldn't it sort of be...
Okay! The armor looks cool. Those weird... I don't know what those are. Look fancy. Make it look decent. But the chains make her look even more metal. Not literally. Both literally and figuratively. Wrapped around in chains? Dude, she would fit right in to a freaking Ozzy Osbourne album cover. Holy shit. Just look at her. She looks so freaking cool.
Bursting with dark power. So a lot of her design, you can see, is made up of this dark armor, but there's also cracks beneath her armor that show this red-hot interior, which is expressed through these areas of great luminance, and how the armor is almost outgrowing itself and bulging beyond its original shape and form. Cracks beneath the armor sort of start to show and form themselves, and there's real power and menace that seems as though it's just under the surface, barely contained. The Wrathborn, which we saw in the Season of the Hunt, are really some of the only troops of Xivu's that we've actually seen in-game. And the Season of the Hunt are really some of the only troops of Xivu's.
Wait! It looks similar to... That thing, that hive looks... That giant hive, whatever thing is... Looks kind of similar to Xivu.
That we've actually seen in-game. And for the most part, they are just very similar to the Hive and Fallen that we see in-game typically, just with some different accents and notes, and it's these accents that we wanted to pick up on. So in particular, you've got their green fire and their chains, and the chains are really something that we wanted to pull from the Wrathborn and incorporate into Xivu Arath's design. So you can see that her sword and her armor are covered in chains, and that is almost indicative of the fact that if these chains were broken, they would unleash the monster that's been bound beneath them. It's one of these things of, if these chains weren't here, Xivu Arath would literally be able to detonate out of her own form and out of her own armor. But we also decided to take what was very clearly Xivu's best defining feature in this design from a lot of other previous examples of Hive that canonically might have actually gotten that kind of design as a referential point from her. So in particular, of course, it's that Rhino-esque helmet that you see on the War Priest and the High Celebrant. Both of them have this jaw that's just full of fangs, and that's really quite distinctive for the entire design. And so what we decided to do was basically take that helmet, and of course it's in Xivu's dark armor, but we also decided to enhance its proportions. So Xivu Arath's various different proportions and parts to the helmet are taller and longer and bulkier, but also it's got spikes on the top that sort of work their way into a very rudimentary crown. Ultimately, we were using these aspects to communicate that Xivu Arath as a character is the god of war, and is clearly the most ferocious of the three Hive gods.
So dreadful. Like, terrifying. Savathun! God. You know I hate this, but it looks great. I like it. I mean, she looks fan-freaking-tastic. She looks like something straight up out of a nightmare. Oh, okay! Now, you see, this is the example of a hive. I mean, look at her face. She has no mouth. Unless she talks through these holes here. And this is like a natural mask or something, but she looks so terrifying. Just look at her. I mean, holy crap. That song I heard, it's basically her song.
For Savathun's design, we initially took inspiration from the fact that originally she was meant to transform into what's known as the Mother Morph. And so the Broodmother, Inanan from the Broodhold Strike, and Hive Wizards generally were a really important starting template for our design for her.
That is disgusting.
Metaworks came up with some fantastic initial sketches, and a lot of these early designs, which were made something like 4 or 5 months ago by this point, needed to tailor towards a sort of unspoken elegance that really fills Savathun's character with a lot of deadly poise. She doesn't fight with weapons all the time. More often than not, she'll fight with words and ideas and with trickery. And so it's a much more sophisticated manifestation of the Hive's power. As a result, we wanted her design to really reflect that she's a lot less up-armored and that some parts of her body, like her fingers for example, have no armor whatsoever, given that it demonstrates that she gets a lot more use out of being more dexterous and precise in every way. She sort of takes after Warlock palettes in this sense, where she has a very select amount of armor, and oftentimes you'll see that that armor recedes instead into cloth and arcane symbols that sort of just fill all the different parts of her armor. We wanted to have Savathun's visual design mimic her symbol and her runes somewhat closely, and so we essentially took that rune that you can find of hers that's on the bottom of the Crown of Sorrow, and her rune from the Season of Arrivals, and a few other sources, and we almost used those as a sort of base template for the shape of Savathun's head as well as Savathun's body generally. And in order to go ahead and craft this overall, initially Metaworks had, again, all of these fantastic pieces of art, and one of the designs was really interesting and it really stood out, which was this kind of aesthetic that had a veil over Savathun's face. And the imagery was a little bit too bright for the Witch Queen, but ultimately it led us to this place where we were adding these wraps of cloth that sort of flow behind her from her horns, and it's almost as if it implies that she carries her heraldry or her knowledge with her at all.
Sorry, I have to.
And her rune, cloth and arcane symbols that sort of just fill all the different parts of her armor. We wanted to have Savathun's visual design mimic her symbol and her runes somewhat closely, and so we essentially took that rune that you can find of hers that's on the bottom of the Crown of Sorrow, and her rune from the Season of Arrivals, and a few other sources, and we almost use those as a sort of base template for the shape of Savathun's head as well as Savathun's body generally. And in order to go ahead and craft this overall, initially Metaworks had, again, all of these fantastic pieces of art, and one of the designs was really interesting and it really stood out, which was this kind of aesthetic that had a veil over Savathun's face. And the imagery was a little bit too bright for the Witch Queen, but ultimately it led us to this place where we were adding these wraps of cloth that sort of flow behind her from her horns. And it's almost as if it implies that she carries her heraldry or her knowledge with her at all times. A part of the veil design that actually did sort of make it was a change to the state of Savathun's face, which was ultimately something that we had a consensus agreement on to keep almost completely covered behind a sort of mask or faceplate. And this was actually one of those really interesting moments because it gave Savathun this place where you can't ever really see her expression. But that's important because it kind of feeds into the idea that she's always capable of deception. Of course, we read the expressions on people's faces and we use that to gauge where they are and you can tell whether someone's lying. But if Savathun's face is constantly covered, you can't tell if she's lying or not. You can't tell when the deception's coming. And so it leaves just her eyes visible. And they really stand out from the silhouette as the result. And it creates this really menacing vision when Savathun is just in the dark and the only thing you can see are a pair of really distinctive eyes.
Yeah.
Wait, she has 3 eyes.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm just going to leave that in.
Yeah. Ah, dang it! Another ad! Hang on! Ugh. Jesus Christ. Sorry. Okay, apparently the ad...
You know what? I'm just going to leave that in.
It's going away somehow. It's weird. Okay. Bungie? You guys should, like...
So, one of the major...
I just gotta say this now. They all... I mean, Savathun and Xivu Arath look good in this, like a 2D animated 2D artwork. I mean, they look so unique. Like, so terrifying, but so awesome. I love it.
So one of the major reasons that a project like this is even possible is because of you guys, and especially those of you who are supporting through the Patreon. I think it's really fair to say that the Patreon in the last few years hasn't really received the attention that it should have. But those of you that have been patiently and passionately continuing to give over the last few years and months have helped to fund everything that you're seeing right now. In the next few months, we'll be looking to kick back into a more operational state with the Patreon, and as we continue down this path, I hope that...
Whoa! Okay. Now, this is interesting. They all look different.
Some of the fruits of that labor will start to be seen. The dev diaries are all going to be published here on YouTube, of course, but we're going to be uploading some of them early to Patreon so that those of you who are helping to fund this project can get an idea of what you're actually looking at and what your funding is paying for. And hopefully that's going to be a great incentive for some of you guys, especially if you're supporting at the higher tiers. I think it's also worth noting that the Patreon is going to be at the forefront of our focus, and that's now much more possible. To be honest, back in the old days there was a lot of stuff that was getting in the way and life was chaotic, but now I have much more of a support network in place where I can actually do things that I want with the channel.
Believe me.
You know, back in the day, if I was doing daily content, I would have burned out very easily in the space of months, and you guys have been with me through those various different journeys, but now the channel is in a different place. We have the consistent support of a pair of editors, and soon we plan on getting a manager for the Patreon so that we can keep on top of that. And with all of these different things in place, my hope is that we're going to be able to take the Patreon and turn it into something that is not only worthy of you guys and your support, but also is a functional vehicle to create the content that you guys want to see on the channel in the future.
Yeah. Whoa, they look so cool looking.
There are a lot of other people that we need to talk about when it comes to talking about all the work that has been put into this project. We haven't even touched on the voice acting team, which Moonvald has been leading the charge on as far as organization goes. We haven't talked about sound design, which Emblem is going to be helping us out with in certain capacities. And there's so much more we need to talk about when it comes to the art and animation behind this project. We still need to talk about the inspiration and the design concepts that went into the different monsters and aliens that you see throughout the Books of Sorrow and throughout this project. But also, we need to talk about the animation stuff and how all of it has been lovingly crafted, either through the use of mocap suits or through hand animation, and rigging up all those assets, which took a very long time. And we still need to talk about the music, some of which is, of course, created by Bungie, and some of which was composed by someone called Nihil, who actually created their own fan-made Witch Queen OST, and generously allowed us to use it for Dynasty. It was so fantastic that it actually became our hype soundtrack for this project, and it makes me really excited that you guys get to hear us tell this epic story set to this amazing soundtrack. There are so many different elements to this project, and we're going to be able to touch on them all in future dev diaries.
Yeah. Whoa. Dang it, another ad! What the heck is going on? Okay, we're back.
There's so much to this project that really makes it special, and I hope that as we move into the future we can really emphasize that this project is the giant leap forward that we hoped it would be, but that also it's more than that, that it ends up being a stepping stone into whatever the next great thing beyond it is. I don't know what we'll be doing next. There's all sorts of ideas floating around there that could honestly take the place of whatever we want to do as the next big story that we tell. But the nice thing is that Bungie's created a universe that is absolutely full of amazing characters and epic tales that can be told and should be told. And it's really quite a blessing that they have such an attitude to community projects like this. In days and ages where there are lots of companies that are trying to really ferociously protect their IPs, Bungie understands that community projects like this don't just create fantastic pieces of art and celebrations of their stories, but also help to bring people to the game and help people to really say, hey, I'm more deeply invested in Destiny than I've ever been. So thank you to that. More so than that, I want to say thank you so far to everyone on the team, because without them, we would not be able to create something that is worthy of you guys, and we wouldn't be able to say that we had anywhere close to have earned the love and support and generosity that all of you have shown us thus far. The next dev diary that we're going to be talking about is going to release at some point in the next few months, and we're going to be talking about the art and animation of Dynasty and all of the designs behind the various gods and monsters that we're going to be showing off and meeting in the process of the story. If you sign up to Patreon, you can go ahead and get early access to that one, and you'll be able to see it before anyone else does. But in the meantime, though, thank you for watching. Dynasty releases prior to the Witch Queen expansion's release in 2022. We can't wait for you to see the final product, and I really do hope that we do the Witch Queen justice. But, as per usual, know that your viewership is quite enough for me, and that in the meantime, my name is Bife. Parodasia ad Astra. I'll see you, Starside.
Okay. I have some notes, but I think I just already explained them. Until next, so nobody... Sorry, I've been gobsmacked right here. So, otherwise, you know what to do. Make sure to rate, like, comment, subscribe, and until next time.